those of you guys that have been with World War II since the very launch and you've paid attention to the community and how everything has been handled with all sorts of different topics of interest that the community have expressed their voices on, one thing in particular that a lot of people were kind of interested in hearing more about was the XP leveling rates. And that's something that from the get-go, what we'd have was that base XP. And everybody was like, man, we're gonna fly through this. This feels good. I really like this rate of XP. To which it then later came out that it was accidentally 3 times XP at launch in the couple of days thereafter. Michael Condrey ended up talking about this over on Twitter, to which it became the birth of a meme within the Call of Duty community, that 3 times XP, and since then we've had a couple out of that. But the question still remains, are we getting all the XP that we necessarily should be? Why are we leveling up so slow? And so today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the theories and potentially what very well could explain why you're not leveling up as fast or why you're not getting as much XP within Call of Duty World War II. So while everything has died down from the double XP weekend, hopefully you guys took advantage of it and hopefully you guys made some progressions within the ranks. I know that I didn't get as far as I had hoped, but such is life whenever you have a million things to do and sometimes you just can't sit down and grind it out. But nonetheless, with everything going back to normal now, I figured this would be a perfect time to discuss this, because if you hop on now and are still referencing what you did this past weekend, you'll probably notice a clear and concise difference in how fast you rank up. So the biggest theory out of this, and one that seems very plausible, deals with one thing that you guys might not actively notice in previous titles, that dealing with medal XP. So for those of you guys that don't know, because it is very common to overlook this entirely, a lot of the times you won't see direct correlations from your score for your XP, and that's because there's a bunch of multipliers and extra bonus things that give you XP whenever you go outside of your just raw game score and everything you achieved within there. A lot of those things also come down to medals. So for reference, let's use the last Sledgehammer Games title within Call of Duty, that being Advanced Warfare, and the big mode here out of this for the specific goal of ranking up was Search and Destroy. Now, Search is still a great way to rank up, don't get me wrong, it's still a very viable option for ranking up rather fast because XP is exponentially greater with each kill that you get, but in Advanced Warfare, not even kidding you, each kill granted you around 2,000 to 2,500 XP, depending on a few various things. Each kill at its base was around 1,500 to 2,000 XP, plus headshots, doubles, triples, comebacks, any other sort of medal. So as you can see by this, the medals themselves really offered some great XP bonuses, and that's one of those things that sometimes in tips and tricks videos and everything for leveling up fast, you'll see people mention go for medals, go and try and get as many as possible because they do help you out. And if you take a look at, say, the Call of Duty wiki or something with every single medal available on the medals page, you'll see that every single year there is a denomination that offers you an XP bonus for each individual medal. Now, where this comes into play now, if we were to take the same scenario within World War II that we just talked about within Advanced Warfare, if you go into Search, a probably mid to high tier game is about 9 kills. You're only gonna get about 6,000 XP for that. That's about the rough average that I've seen here out of this. And so where this now comes down to it, what it breaks down to is that whether intentionally or not, whether it's something that is a system that is unfortunately broken, or if it was planned to do this, medals don't grant you as much, if any, XP at all. Now where this becomes a little hard to track is there's nowhere to actually check out what medals you have, so you can't do as much direct testing as one might hope for. However, if you take a look at the medals that you end up getting in the after action report, you can see that there's definitely a lot compared to the little XP that you end up getting for whatever you end up playing. Now, is this something that potentially could be fixed in the future? Is this something in which these rates will be adjusted with an upcoming patch or something like that? It's always possible since we are still very early on in the game, and given how many things have had bugs, how many things haven't really been up to that standard that we either hoped for or that we've come to expect, there is still the possibility at this earliest moment that maybe this gets adjusted. Am I counting on it? I personally don't think so, because we're gonna get to another theory that's come up now as to why, but it is still something that we are early enough that maybe it comes. But again, I'm not going to hope for it, simply because if you take a look at other portions in the game, it actually makes up in different aspects. Now that sounds weird to say and doesn't really make sense on the surface, but by excluding the medals from the XP progression and what grants XP to certain players, this creates about a 15% gap in the XP rates and progression that we know thus far. So our one-time XP, that base level that we get in World War II, is about 15% lower than what we've seen in other titles. Now, the username Fezzi on Reddit broke this down absolutely brilliantly. To do so, he broke it down by testing out games within World War II and Modern Warfare Remastered. When you take a look at the World War II tests, they consisted of 10 kills with 1 headshot each, 2 assists which ended up having 80 points, and absolutely no score streaks were used at that time. This netted a total of a score of 1,160 and an XP of 1,810 without match bonus. Now, whenever you take those same parameters and put it into Modern Warfare Remastered, the Modern Warfare Remastered test consisted of 10 kills with 1 headshot, and for the sake of showing exactly how different it is, 0 assists instead of 2, no streaks, and a total score of 1,000 and a total XP granted of 1,875 without match bonus. So more in World War II equals less of a net gain compared to less and more in Modern Warfare Remastered. The sheer correlation of the progression in ranks also differs, as it takes on about a comparison of 25,600 XP to go from level 30 to 31 in World War II, and then in Modern Warfare Remastered, only 23,600 XP for that same level progression of 30 to 31 in Modern Warfare Remastered. Now, if you end up taking this at a whole, at its total XP rate to Prestige, in Modern Warfare Remastered, you'd only need 1,269,900 XP to Prestige. If you take the same basis of what you need to Prestige in World War II, that'll end up running you a total of 1,457,200 XP. So if you run the math on that, it's roughly 15% more XP to Prestige when directly comparable to other titles, namely in this direct test, Modern Warfare Remastered. So perhaps the individual testing itself might vary depending on different games and everything like that, and that is something which is always circumstantial. But when you take a look at the actual basis for the XP for each, that's something that's almost irrefutable, because at this point in time, there are people that have already equated out how much XP it takes to get from start of level 1 to the end of a Prestige. And of course, going backwards, that's something that previous titles everyone's done for years now. But when we get that solid basis of about 15% less XP than previously, that's where this theory starts to come into play even further. The theory that it's intentionally 15% back because if 15% means anything to you, you might have picked up on it already. Heroic weapons grant a 15% XP bonus when using them. So, with that said, perhaps it's intentional, perhaps it's a reason to start to go for those heroic weapons, and encourages players then to either play a certain way with a certain weapon, or perhaps a little bit deeper, the cynic in me and perhaps the cynic in you may see this as a direct correlation to try and sell a little bit more in microtransactions. Now, of course, I'm not gonna pin that entirely because that is all just speculation. It makes pure sense though as to why it would be a theory and everything like that, but we're never gonna have the answer directly given to us. But it is an interesting thought that maybe this does encourage the use and hunt for heroic weapons to level out that standard XP compared to what we've known about in previous years. 15% less in the XP leveling progression system, and then 15 for those heroic weapons seems a little bit too interesting to just call that a coincidence or an arbitrary change in the numbers. But that said, also on the same token, it also might just encourage the use more of orders and contracts for XP boost and everything like that, in which maybe the heroic weapons are something that sure could add to that to level it out, but you also have those orders and contracts which do give you timed XP bonuses, which could periodically level it out once again too as well. And also there's XP bonuses and supply drops, which not trying to come back to it, but those are in there, which maybe leads to maybe people buying supply drops once again. And for armory credits, if you need to buy contracts, only available in supply drops for those things that you end up getting for duplicates. And then also with the very small progression, it all kind of just leads back to maybe this was an underlying plan to create all sorts of different avenues which we either can take advantage of or dislike as consumers. But nonetheless, that's just all theory. And once again, that said, it's not something that we can really confirm or deny, but the numbers just line up almost like a jigsaw puzzle to the point where you have to question it. So I'm not necessarily a big fan of the maybe subliminal push towards supply drops, but also if that's the case in which they were supposed to line up like this, we can take advantage of this without using our wallets or anything like that to make up for it. We can end up using progression that we get for contracts, orders, things like that we can end up unlocking naturally. But of course, that is something that we'll see in time how this all works out. But that right now seems to be the reason why you're not ranking up as fast in Call of Duty World War II, both coming down to the lack thereof of medal bonus XP, and then also perhaps an intentional decrease in the amount of XP that you end up getting compared to previous years and everything like that. So while you're feeling like you might be ranking up slow, it's very possible that you actually are compared to what you know. And thus, here we are trying to figure out exactly what it could be, but for now, that's the best explanation I have. So hopefully this helped you out in some way, shape, or form, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. That said, let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Do you think that it might be something dealing with the 15% and 10% bonus for heroic and epic weapons that you end up getting that XP for using them? Or do you think that's something that is completely arbitrary, completely irrelevant to the topic of discussion? And as well, do you think that the lack thereof of medal XP is a huge factor in this also? Let me know your thoughts and feedback, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date with everything we have here regarding Call of Duty World War II, anything regarding explanations like this, tips, tricks, best class setups, news, information, leaks, any of that, we got you covered here up on the channel. If any of it interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected with me outside of YouTube. I practically live on Twitter, so if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. But all that said and out of the way, hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.